Okay, so welcome for another Exploring Consciousness with the Earth Nouveau Hub. Really looking forward to this one. The topic is awakening our love and compassion. Now, it's really, I find it quite amusing how the universe, sends me those little, signs or breadcrumbs on how to choose another topic, because I literally don't know until the very last moment what to do. And then I found this, as I posted that M on the floor the other day while I was walking. And initially, Martina, my name came to mind. And then when I posted it this morning, Mercy popped in. I thought, Mercy, what is this all about? Because, so many people is like, I need a break. God have mercy on me, this is too much. I have enough of all of that, and that led me then to think about compassion. And when, I don't know if, obviously the guys who were here, we talked about creation and we talked about passion and losing our passion and creating from a place of dharmic, on the dharmic path rather than the karmic path and everything, And as I was thinking of compassion, I was thinking of what if compassion is the new passion? What if compassion is the new passion? And then I looked it up. In the Buddhist tradition, actually, compassion is seen as the source and essence of enlightenment. So as we're all talking about awakening, remembering, enlightenment and all of those lovely things, it's time to talk about compassion, right? What is it? What is it not? How we do it? When are we doing it? What are the preconditions to doing it? And all of that. Because truly, compassion is the new energy in this, in the fifth world of peace, right? So question number one, I've got a couple of questions. Question number one, to kick it off, is, I've written it down. So when do we actually do compassion? When do we know that we do compassion? What sort of incident do we, in what sort of incident are we using compassion? By distinctly.
Joe, but I think you need to mute your mic, keying in over the top of Martina here.
Yes, thanks guys. Thanks, Matty, for pointing that out. So yes, so guys, from your experiences, let's just kick it off with that. So when do you do or have done compassion?
Compassion's a funny one, isn't it? Because it's one of those ones that can be very insincere near the beginning of the journey. It's one of those light worker attributes that one can fake quite easily,
Yeah, no, absolutely, Matty. And I think this is why it is such a cool topic. We need to actually get some more clarity on what compassion is and what is it for us. So, when we start talking about compassion, it's obviously when we are expressing sympathy towards somebody, right? I mean, there's one thing where I've been going through this compassion, looking at it in a bit more detail, when you are faced with a dear one or someone in your environment who is dying, actually. So the death process and someone dying is always a trigger for you to look at compassion. How do you do it? What is it? And how do you don't do it? Mm-hmm. Shoba, what you got with regard to that question?
Yeah, what I got on this was, thanks, Matty, for saying the light worker word, because that's really something very strong for me, because I hear that so much from my friends. Compassion is just overly done as a sense of empathy, really, that goes ballistic, out of control. And for me, it's a bit ad nauseum the way it can take that kind of direction. For me, what compassion comes down to is And it's a really tough one. When you used to live in India and you'd see these animals or the children, what they would do to the kids to make money. And you'd see that pass in front of you and you would feel completely powerless in that moment. And there's something within that which all you have is your compassion to give out. And it's something that touches so deeply within, and just being there 100%, and not necessarily doing anything to interfere.
Yes.
Okay, it's like I'm putting my thing on. If I see a woman, how to say, this is going to sound awful, but really damaging a child at that moment, and you're there within a group of people, and you know you provoke a riot or something like that, and you just stand there and you feel this waves of compassion coming out, because in the end it's compassion for the self, because you can't interfere.
Mm-hmm. So would you say, you've already mentioned a couple of great things, which we're going to look into a bit more when we go to the precondition, for compassion. But, you mentioned the word powerless. And I really I like that you mentioned that. Thank you for that, because what you just said, in that so-called powerlessness, you're not choosing to interfere. Is there a powerfulness in that?
Yes.
Yes.
It's where you take your power back.
Yes. And this is what I particularly would like to look at today, really going beyond the light worker definition of compassion and seeing the power that we can exude, that we can cultivate, facilitate in those seemingly powerless moments. And that's very much going back to what we, especially the last couple of weeks, talked about, the activation of our technology, the self-mastery, the self-healing and everything that is the precursor for all of that. Yeah. So this is fantastic. So, okay, Matty.
Yeah. So for me, in my experience recently, I've found that compassion, it's almost like the opposite of judgment. And I found that compassion wasn't something that I was naturally able to generate in abundance. But once that self-mastery takes a certain level and a certain turn, and we begin to sing things from macro scales, then we realize, shut the door, please. Then we, excuse me. Then we realize that, everything is in the order that it needs to be in. And so, in a way, if we're viewing a situation in the world and we wish it to be different, we only wish it to be different because of the way it makes us feel or the way we think it's going to make other people feel. We wish to be free of that. That's a judgment, And so compassion is really the ability to understand any given situation as it is and to allow it to be as it is, unless it's stepping on your journey, in which case you show compassion to yourself and make a change.
Absolutely. One of the big words that keeps coming up again is the judgment. You can't do compassion and judgment at the same time. It doesn't work. It's the same as you can't do judgment and gratitude at the same time. It doesn't work either. Compassion is not the antidote. It's not the antidote to judgment. Gratitude is, but non-judgment is a precursor for being able to be compassionate with an open heart. So it's already fantastic. These are all actually quite big energies. But once we start getting more clarity on that, we can really start acknowledging that compassion is the new passion, because compassion is a result of non-judgment, and non-judgment is the opposite. Let's call it non-judgment is awareness, true awareness can only happen because of non-judgment. And what is true awareness is bloody enlightenment. So the Buddhist tradition is right?
Mastery.
Compassion is
Mastery.
the source of enlightenment, the true essence of enlightenment, as is non-judgment, because compassion cannot be without non-judgment. So fantastic. So we're already kicking it off really cool. So let's look at what is compassion not? What is it not? Let's start this way and see if we can, get a bit deeper into the intricacies of compassion. What is it not? So we were saying earlier on, it's not a feeling sorry for somebody. It's not a feeling sorry.
It's not a sympathetic program.
It's not a sympathetic program, absolutely. It's not the old way of, remember, the way we did empathy, entangling in it, taking on other people's shit, having it stuck in our physicality. It's not that, because that's part of the judgment. Now, also the way we could look at it from a big, again, because we're always talking big concepts here, is everything that is fear-based. And I'd also like to throw in the ego here, because the ego is an amazing tool, and we all need it in order to manifest with joy and ease. Yeah. Without the ego, we can't manifest in this reality, in this space-time reality. But if we're using the ego to grasp onto material things and to even to our bodies and to, our everything that we make significant and everything, then it becomes a judgment. And fear-based compassion is
any slight bit of fear, no matter how small it is, even if it's just like a little fear fart in the background in the corner of the room, any little bit of fear signifies the ego is trying to take you away from the power of the moment of the now.
So fear-based compassion, it's not even compassion, but let's just call it that, would be pity. Yeah, pity, to pity somebody, which is bloody arrogant. Yeah, condescending as fuck. Judgmental. The choices that you've made, I wouldn't have done it that way. Well, this is not your journey. This is not your path. You have no idea what the karmic resolution is for that particular person. So again, fear, judgment. That's not compassion. We're not talking about that. And that's very often, thrown into one basket with the light worker thing. I know what it feels like. I tell you what it's like to be enlightened. If you don't do it my way, then you're not enlightened. Well, thank you, but that's just an interesting point of view. That's all we can say, right? But you still got your hand up, or is there something else you wanted to say?
Yeah, just that compassion can be turned into a weapon very easily.
Absolutely.
And this is where it gets really so when you start lifting up that scab of programming and start digging down deep into it, you can see that a lot of what is real compassion, or what is held up as compassion, is a really sneaky weaponized program operating.
Love the word you just thrown in, the weapon. Okay. Now, compassion, if it's done through competition, hierarchy, not compassion, right? And then the weapon comes in. Now let's look at the word mercy. Yeah, mercy and compassion are supposedly, very similar. But then, what is actually, when you look at the word mercenary, yeah, then all of a sudden it turns into the weapon. It turns into the mercenary, the soldier that is fighting for the country, overseas in a foreign place. That's how mercenary is defined. And also the mercy, if you go back on the word mercy, mercere, Latin from Latin, is actually reward, right? Where we still again have a little bit of the ego. Are you just compassionate because you want to have a reward? You want to be seen as, you're the compassionate schnook out there and you helping everyone? Now, that doesn't mean that compassion, there is an intricate gift in the compassion when you do it through true compassion, because there is this gift that is a result of the giving and the receiving at the same time, right?
True compassion is a byproduct of self-mastery. That's when it is the gift, because the sympathetic and parasympathetic programs fall away. You have no more limitations in those ways, and compassion becomes your natural state of being, because you're not quite trying to control anything anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You accept it all as it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then it truly is a gift.
Yes. And then you can give to others from that space that is completely different than that limited box of judgment. You're creating a completely different space that actually creates for you and for the other person to choose whatever they need to choose for themselves. It's not an indoctrination of we telling them what they need to do in order to be happy, but we creating the space for them so that they can actually find their own choices. And that can lead to spiritual awakening. Yeah. And we can do this because we are catalysts for that. If you truly step into that heart opening, which is part of that compassion. So compassion, I would say, is very much linked to the heart chakra. Yeah. Very much linked to the heart chakra, coming from an open heart. Okay. Okay, so we just talked about what is it not? So what is true fearless compassion? You know, we might repeat ourselves in saying that, but it doesn't matter. I just want to really drill down into that energy. What is fearless compassion? And when I say fearless, what is totally non-judgment, or let's call it unbiased equanimity. Unbiased equanimity without a point of view. True awareness. Shoba.
Okay, I think we have a brilliant example today with the COVID and everybody with their stories and the suffering that goes with it.
Yeah.
And it's like every day there's just a whole series of stories that are coming through from people and not getting involved in them, not hooking into them, just holding space for them and just being there without any other words, because it's their unfolding.
So unbiased view of equanimity, yes.
Yeah. And unfolding, and it's a personal unfolding as well, watching that you actually cannot interfere, because when you interfere, you're going against the person's dignity. You're taking that, you're stripping them completely of that, and of yourself when you step in.
And they're right to be afraid as well. I mean, looking at, you know, some people these days, you know, the last thing you're going to be able to do when someone looks afraid and terrified just to be in a shop is to go and project all of your stuff on them and say, no, look at my point of view. You know what I mean? You just got to make peace with it, man. It's unusual because right now, you know, where usually before COVID, people would walk past you and there'd just be people walking past. But these days you get an inclination into their mental state and their spiritual state where you never would have had that before.
So tell us more about that. How does that, how do you perceive that when you say you get inclination when they walk by?
Well, you know, not using any sort of psychic skills or anything like that. I'm not talking that kind of frequency, but just the fact that, you know, some people will be wearing masks, some people are not. Some people will try to absolutely jump out of your way, you know.
Yeah, yes.
You know, absolutely jump out of your way. I've had people, I walk down an aisle in the shopping and they run away from that aisle just because I'm not wearing a mask or whatever, you know. There's just a lot of it around, and where usually people would walk past you and there would just be people passing in the street with their own mental agenda or whatever's going on inside. These days it's one on the outside. I mean, the masks are a great projection of that, aren't they? Especially in the UK, because in the UK obviously we don't have to wear them, so it's choice. So you really get an inclination into what's going on in people's minds.
Okay.
But that's a subject. That's just kind of, you know.
Yeah, no, I like it though. I like it though, because, you know, we could almost say there's almost more, I don't know if we can, there's not more awareness as such, there's more judgment out there actually, isn't it? It's
Very
almost
much.
like, I have perceived that too, and it doesn't matter if it's in the park or on the tube, you know, you're much more aware of how people are judging. Okay, let's go say that, you know, that there is no space for compassion.
There's lots of meetings at the moment, like in parks, they call it, what is it, something in the park or something. And they're all over the country. People are just getting together to meet in the parks. But generally, these are anti-COVID kind of flavor discussions. And I found myself as being someone who's open to both sides of the scale, someone who does have genuine compassion, not really feeling comfortable in those situations. Because it seems like everybody's got a finger to point at everybody else, you know?
Yeah.
Because they think they're righteous.
Yeah.
Well, they are.
Absolutely. So when we talk about compassion that is rooted in love, then we can say there is a level of respect. There's a level of honoring of what other people choosing without having to make it significant, without having to even validate it, or just having to judge it, you know. So a big fan of tools, obviously, because you know it's a lot of blah blah. So well, how do we do this, right? How do we do this? Like Matty says, you walk along the road and you being projected all the crap because you wear not a mask or something, you know. It's like, how do you do this? We talk about self-mastery, we talk about boundaries, right? But then at the same time, and this is the tricky thing with compassion, we got to be very careful about what kind of boundaries are we actually talking about when we talk about compassion, because with compassion, this is the next level where actually the boundaries are almost no longer required. Because the level of self-mastery and self-healing has reached a level of pure consciousness. And where consciousness is no longer about right or wrong, it's no longer about good or bad. Consciousness is just consciousness. It is what it is. But as long as we just talk it and don't embody that energy, we will still need our boundaries.
Until such a point as synthesis arrives.
Yes. And I looked at that the other day because I thought, you know, in self-mastery, we talk a lot about the boundaries, having to have our boundaries, our healthy boundaries, not boundaries because of fear, protection, or anything like that, but boundaries that actually naturally now occur. It's almost like a natural intrinsic shield because of the value, acknowledgement of who we are. So I think compassion, one of the things, in order for us to be compassionate, we have to start really acknowledging the multidimensionality. We are multidimensional, multifunctional, photonic beings of light, you know, connected and serviced by the non-local soul, you know, and that strength of that connection between our bodies here, between our soul essence, that creates a natural intrinsic boundary, a value. It's almost like I want to say the new boundary, yeah? New passion is compassion. The new boundary that we used to have in order not to get, you know, entangled with anything is value. Valuing yourself, self-value. What do you think about that?
I agree completely. And I think it's, you know, it's important to consider that compassion will only get you so far. You know, there are other times when compassion may just be sticking up for yourself. It can still be an act of compassion. You know, just said, you know, I fucking had enough of this. I'm not doing it anymore. Yeah. You know, that kind of frequency, that can still be compassion. It doesn't have to be, like I say, you know, surrounded by rainbows and light, you know. It's just a new choice.
Absolutely. That consciousness, when we as awareness facilitators, we are all awareness facilitators. We have to facilitate ourselves and others. As soon as we embody that intrinsic value of what consciousness is, there is no longer polarity. When we call ourselves enlightened or awakened or whatever you guys want to call yourselves at this level, we can't do polarity anymore. Having said that, that doesn't mean that we become a doormat and we can't see when an arsehole walks, you know, crosses the road right there. No, we can still see that. We can acknowledge that. We don't have to entangle with it. And it's no longer having an impact on us. So the tool for that, and again, this is an old access tool, is when everything, when everything becomes interesting, literally interesting point of view. When you can have this interesting point of view, whatever you experience, whatever you do yourself, you know, you come up with, or then from a really fun, joyful, curious, almost open heart, compassionate level. It's just an interesting point of view, right? That's the tool. And when I say tool, it's literally a tool. So when you start struggling with whatever that is, whatever triggers you, whatever point of view that comes up, whatever thought that haunts you, whatever projection you're perceiving, that's interesting point of view that I have this point of view, interesting point of view that this person has that point of view, interesting point of view that media is doing what it's doing. And you say that a couple of times, you're literally transmuting that energy. So that's why I'm saying it's a tool. It's just a sentence, but it becomes a tool as you use it. Interesting point of view. And you can be really fucking angry initially. And interesting point of view that I have this point of view that this is actually something that makes me angry. You say it 3 times, maximum 5 times, and the energy is already gone. That's one of the tools. I just want to remind you, I've mentioned those many times, but it's a very, very good, and also for myself, a reminder that will help us to maintain that non-judgmental status that allows us to be compassionate from an open heart. Lana, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, you're making so many points that you're moving ahead so fast.
I know,
and then
bloody no, it's crazy.
And then I forget what the point is and so on. But anyway, I was holding on to this one as you were saying that we have to watch that we don't put up so many walls around us or protection around us in this new energy that we're moving into, that we forget how to be compassionate, because our walls are so high up. I've noticed that someone that I know, and this is not a judgment, this is just an observation, that I've noticed that this person had put up so many walls around themselves that I feel like the person had forgotten how to show compassion and has closed off themselves from even making any connection with others. And even though they talk about how wonderful they are, it's hard to reach them, even to say a hello or anything like that. So we have to remember that there's a fine line between the two, you see? Yes? You get what I'm saying? Am I explaining myself correctly?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we've just said, for me, the next level of that, which you're just describing so nicely, is actually, are we moving beyond boundaries here? Or do we have to redefine the new boundaries? in this new energy where we're talking about compassion, because the boundaries now, the old boundaries of protection, just 1 second, do no longer work. They keep us in the prison. We can't get out. Nobody can get in.
And then we create that prison at the same time, because we're putting up the foundational walls so high around us that we're not reaching out anymore. You know, so yeah, that's my point about that. Yeah, go ahead, Matthew.
Yeah, I've been chewing on a bit for ages. So I'm at a really unique time at the moment. Things have been very interesting for me recently, and this new light that we're moving into, if you want to put it that way, or this new light that's being offered, really the essence of it is synergy. It's there comes a point in the self-mastery process where you have enough tools, like Martina's always saying, tools. You use enough tools without any particular agenda. You're not doing them to escape anything. You're not doing them for anything other than your own self-mastery as it evolves naturally, you know? And the more tools you have, when your awakening moment comes, or moments to follow comes, then it will be synergy. It will happen on its own, because you are in alignment with all that is, was, and ever will be. You've shown that through your self-mastery and your dedication. And these walls and these boundaries that we put up, they're not only to keep other people out, they're to keep us small. And the moment that we start to see the world on grander scales and begin to branch out and actually look at the world from a macro perspective, that's when the magic happens. And that is when things like compassion are a natural state of emanation, because there are no boundaries. It doesn't matter what happens. Someone could come up and say, "Oh, you fucking fight me now." And if it's inevitable, I'm like, hell yeah, let's do this. You know what I mean? This is synergy right now. Whatever comes from it is whatever comes from it. So I know that's a rather extreme example, but really this new light is about synergy. What can you do to be in the flow with all that is, was, and ever will be, without that just being words?
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, I get it.
So what I understood was really a reinforcement of the self-healing, the self-mastery at all times by using the tools and everything, and then becoming the energy of all of that, so that everything just starts emanating and evolving, the synchronicities, the serendipities. And also, as you said, once you get to that level of where everything is just consciousness, everything is just awareness, you also change your signature frequency to the level that you no longer attract the bullying guys in. You can still see them. Yeah, you see them. You can appreciate them. You can, oh, that's interesting. They're still out there. But you're no longer actually entangling with them. Irina, yeah?
Yeah. Hi guys, I'm listening to you and I'm celebrating inside. We are discussing this topic because this is how we can actually, when we are in our awakening and understanding, and like you, Martina, said, we're not attracting those destructive behaviors or anything of that nature to our life already. We can do good like using our human vibration. We are still human beings, and we can address with our compassion, our attitude towards human values. If we recognize something, this is how I use compassion. I see compassion differently than empathy and sympathy. I see compassion, I like the definition when it is when you recognize something, but you are saying with your vibration, with your attitude, I'm not part of that. I'm not going to participate, but I have my heart, my human heart, completely, totally open and understanding what you're going through. In this case, we can assist humanity on bigger level to shift quicker. This is how I use compassion. When I see something, yes, it's not already entangling with me. It's not influencing me. It's not even triggering me, but I recognize it. It's not human value. I don't want this kind of experience to be part of humanity because it's not human experience. It doesn't have heart there. So in this case, I would say, with all my compassion, I send all my love, human love, to you. And I understand what you're going through, your journey, your experience. I'm not violating your choice. You have free will choice, you still can choose it. But I desire on my earth and my universe not to have that kind of behavior. And I have my compassion to you, human being, going through that, not understanding that is not human value. It's not human hard choice for experience, for example, like war or any domination or any oppression or any something like that. That is, it's not human experience in essence. That's how I see it with compassion.
It's a distortion. And would you say compassion would be our natural state if we are, you know, remove all of the blinkers, the blinders, and all of the distractions that include our own internal programs, then that becomes a natural state of emanation.
Even more.
Yeah.
We won't need to be compassionate to anything or anyone, because we will be in that state of being where we are already in those natural human values, having experience of that, how you said, integrity, synergy, in that synergy, co-creating with each other. But we will stay naturally in human values. And we don't need to have that compassion as we understand it today. Mm-hmm. We will naturally have our human heart, 3D-dimensional or whatever we will choose to be in that moment in dimensional state of awareness. Naturally, it will be open. Today, we can't like regulate to open my heart or to not. This is where we talk about compassion. But it is actually a natural state of humanity, of humanness, I would say.
I agree with you. I agree with you, Irina. It's a natural state of being, the compassion.
And the humanness, it's human experience.
And the foundation of the compassion is love itself. So the two of it, you know, the two go hand in hand with each other. Foundation of love, and then the compassion, which is just simply natural state of being.
It's almost like Irina just chunked it up another level now. Okay, we've gone beyond compassion now. We've gone ascended master. You know, ascended master. We all ascend. The thing is, there is no ascended master walking on this planet at this stage. When we talk humanness, we're not there yet. We need to master the compassion first. I would say, I fully agree with you. That is pure enlightenment. That's ascended master status, yeah? Where we don't need to talk about compassion anymore either.
Maybe it is time now for us to remember we can become walking, talking, ascended masters already. If you master your triggers, if you master your duality entanglement, if you did already that, you can start thinking and doing in a way of that ascended masters walking on the street today in this world.
Matty, do you want to
ascended mastery is learning to work on macro scales.
Okay.
Yeah.
Say more on that.
The DNA skin suit that we're in now is about to be, or is in the process of becoming, God's new clothes. Okay. And so what does that mean? That means that the skin suit actually gives us creator abilities. That means that we can dwell in the micro if we wish, but we are macro beings if we choose it.
Yes.
I can't really say much more than that.
No, I like that. But in order to comprehend the macro states, we need to use the skin suit capacities in the micro state. And that is compassion for me. I'd almost say compassion for the level of awareness that we're talking is still micro.
And all of these different tools and tips and techniques and the things that you use, including those things that you would term or deem not helpful, or that were your demons, so we could say, the awakening is a compression moment where past, present, and future simultaneously come together to create this synergy, which is that flow from before to what is.
Okay, so, and I would also now, and in this particular case now, at this point, remind us, all of us, that of the galactic ascension machine, right? Because this is the whole idea of us coming here as human beings, so that we can start looking at karma resolution. And then when we go into that state of enlightenment, which the Buddhist tradition says, you know, the compassion is the source and essence of that. Yeah. This is when we then get to the place where we want to be the end of karma as a universal law. Once we can talk about the end of karma as a universal law, which is pure state of enlightenment for all of us here, then we can talk about ascended mastery. Then we can talk about macro levels and all of that.
But that is synergy. That is the synergy.
Yeah, yeah. And it happens on an individual level. Yeah. I'm not saying for 1 second we won't have, you know, ascended masters walking on this planet in a short period of time. I don't know.
Maybe angels, maybe dragon riders and angels.
Yeah, it's all possible. But it's nice to look at what is actually, and I know there is no linearity as such, but the micro level of the ascended mastery is really to looking at compassion now and really get a handle of that. And when we can say, you know, we're getting better in saying, yeah, I feel like a self-illuminated master on some level, and, you know, we're slipping off and everything. But I certainly can't say for myself, I got the compassion completely figured out. You know, and the one thing which really made me realize that I think it's an amazing opportunity when you have an opportunity to be with a loved one, or a dear one, or not even a dear one, just someone, a cat even, you sit with when they go through the death process. Oh my God, it is such a gift for compassion, for letting go of your judgment, for just being, and this is part of this compassion, for just being in the moment, for creating that space and acknowledging the value of you as a human that you have by creating that space, by being that space, that then it's almost like you are a catalyst. You become the catalyst. There's nothing you need to do. You don't even change in the process. Like a catalyst doesn't change, it infiltrates into something, creates a complete transformation without changing itself necessarily. You can still take the gift of gratitude away from it, you know, and feeling of elation and bliss and everything. But this, and this is why we also need to look at death. We need to look at death. When we talk about compassion, we need to start befriending death.
Are we not in a death phase right now, collectively? Don't you agree, Martina? We're in a collective death phase right now, which is why the idea of compassion comes up. Compassion being a natural state of emanation once those certain processes have died.
That's right.
I like what you just said, to be catalyst, but at the same time, not to substitute compassion vibration with that empathy and sympathy. Other words, not to be entangled in that process that another person going on. Have that heart open, human heart open, yes, but not become that, not to feel what that event that is happening with another person experiencing now. Holding vibration for more expanded, more open gate for that person who is going through some struggle, because we still see death as struggle. We still see death as destruction, yes? In truth, in bigger picture, it is not. It is just transition. But historically, it happened that we stepped into that process of transition as destruction. We are stepping. We see it as, even if it's peaceful, for some people, it's still loss. It's still tragedy, yes? So I, in my practice, start to gather some definitions of death, yes? Some, what in truth, in bigger picture, what death is not. What we connected to definition of death, like destruction, like pain, like loss, like all that stuff. I have already a list of 11 or 12 definitions. If you're interested, I can share with that thing. Maybe it will be interested for our meeting. Not this one, but
yeah. Well, we gotta do it. We gotta talk about death at some stage. So that will be a good one. Yeah.
Do you want me to share with you now in Facebook?
No, we do it for now. We do it for next time we talk about death. And
I would love to discuss it because I don't have still inside of me, like, that power to turn it into neutral even. It's so strong in humanity, that belief. I would love to discuss it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a very big concept. So we do
very
this
big,
time.
very big, yeah.
Good, but it is a very good. Why I'm mentioning it here is because it's one of the quickest ways for us to be almost forced into looking into compassion. How I'm going to deal with that now, and then also when we talk about compassion, you mentioned not feeling the feelings. See, this is the renaissance again of emotions, which I like to say, because when you are in that place of compassion, you are so fortified in your self-mastery, and you are so in your consciousness, no anti-consciousness, no unawareness, no polarity. You can actually start feeling the pain of others. You can. And it becomes almost like an orgasmic experience. Yeah. Let me give you an example for that. And I didn't realize what I was doing at the time. I remember being in an Access course, and we were learning about we were doing entities, and I was working with a guy who was riddled with entities. It was a 3-day course, and he couldn't stay awake because they knocked him out. He just snored through the whole thing because they wouldn't allow him to even listen to what was going on. We did a body process, and he chose me, and that was quite significant that he actually chose me, to work with him. And there was another lady, she wanted to work with him, and he said, no, I need to work with her. So that was the first number one, where I was chosen, which was, I only realized that later. So he started working on me, just holding the hands, and this was the body process, and he started having convulsions and all of it. And I was lying there, and I stepped into a level of compassion. I stepped into a level of heart opening. I had absolutely no point of view, because that's what I do with entities. And I just became the vessel for him to release the entities. Yeah. So whilst he was convulsing and, whatever else was going on, I was completely calm. I had a few tears running down I became hot, and I just allowed everything to catalyze through me. I literally could not get up afterwards. I was vibrating, completely vibrating, but from a place of absolute bliss and joy. That was like a full body orgasm. I got up afterwards, and it was almost awkward to hug him, because it all happened in this. And whilst he was, whilst I was facilitating, I just saw him and me jumping up and down in green fields like little fairies. He was a total fucking fairy, and we were just jumping and playing and all of that. Now that was a place of open heart, no judgment, no fear. And it was one of the most exhilarating healings I've ever done, by allowing myself to be just there.
No mind, no expectation of what was going to happen, no agenda, just a completely neutral in the experience, just being there. Yeah. Otherwise, you tip it either way and things go awry. It really does, especially when you start to function at these higher levels.
In my vision, what you just shared with us, it was pure co-creation with anything that was in place in that moment. So you just put everything into work, and it was so blissful. That's why you came to that orgasmic state. It's wonderful. It's perfect. I see compassion we can use even further, not to, if some destructive, it's your talent, you turned it into bliss and celebration. It is your talent, Martina. That's why it was so orgasmic. That's why it was so wonderful, beautiful, and celebration moment. But not everyone can work that way. Not everyone on that talent state like you are. And some people can be frightened by that unfoldment, not to turn it into orgasmic state. So in this case, that not entanglement with experience of another person, not to use your personal vessel to be that vessel for his or her experience. Just allow for that person straight connection to source. And you as catalyst,
yes.
but not participate in that process personally as human. On human level, to keep that compassion. It can be another way to deal. Like I said, I see in you it was mastery. It was mastery how to co-create and completely be involved, and not to take it on you, but turning it into something else, and for you and for him. It is a mastery level.
Why did I say that is because I wanted to talk about, you can be able to feel the feelings without entangling with it at that level of compassion. Yeah. And we all can do that. And it doesn't look, this was a particular, we are all healers and we all have those moments. So it's an invitation to look at those moments when you actually have a conversation with somebody and you walk away and you're blissful. You have probably done that as well on some level. You know what I mean?
Can I give you another example, Martina? A cool one.
Yes,
right?
Irina, hold on one second. I hear what you're saying. There are other levels where you just walk away. You know?
No. I'm not talking about walking away. You can't be compassionate without feeling. You can't be. How you cannot. You still feel something, but if you don't have that level of mastery like you just described in your case, you can look at that compassion, holding space for another person, just with your open heart, but not be involved so deep. Because if you not mastered your state of being, if you are still can be entangled with some duality experiences, it cannot be, in some cases, it can be turned in something that will influence you, and then you need to healing. So it can be, in some cases, it can be just having your human heart open, but not stepping into that core feeling with what that person, trusting that if you so heart opened and catalyzing that experience next to you, that source connection will fix it. Trusting, knowing that from inside. And you don't step like a human being on this level. You just inviting source to work. And you holding energy for that. It is kind like even softening our possibility of ego being present in anything we are doing as a healers, as catalysts, facilitators. It just can be, in some cases, you need more clean approach. Without involvement of your personal story, whatever you're going with. But on level of mastery like you do, it's just brilliant. It's just perfect. I love it because you received and that person received the same, orgasmic state. So it is that highest possible feeling maybe on earth for human beings, that blissful orgasmic state.
Great. Well, Matthew, let's look at your example.
Oh, I was just trying to figure out a way in my mind, because Martina, you always come up with relevant topics and subjects for the time. The universe always gives you what's potent and what's needed. And For me, recently, an experience happened where I learned compassion in a way that was different for me, quite unique, which emotion could not play a part in. It could not play a part in it at all. Otherwise, the experience would have not been possible, you see. And me and the Dracos don't get on very well. We've never seen eye to eye, okay? To be honest with you, they're quite obnoxious and rude most of the time to me. And we've had some run-ins. And yet I was having a conversation the other day with somebody. It was very high frequency. It was, I just met this person. You know, when you meet someone, you clearly know you haven't just met them, you know. It was one of those kind of scenarios. And the topic of Loosh came up. And so I was just reading into a stream of Loosh. I was just trying to figure out a way to look at how it's produced and different ways that it's moved around. And the Draco collective came in straight away. And usually for me, that would be an attack. It would be, they definitely want to, like, you know, try it on. But this time they were genuinely offering a truce. There was a white flag raising and they said, we'll give you some information if you want, you know? And that was compassion for me in that moment and for them to sort of say, okay, let's co-create in peace, you know? And then they showed me horrific child abuse and all of this other kind of stuff that, you know, with emotion, I wouldn't have been able to get the actual information that I was looking for, and have this co-creation that, believe it or not, was a peaceful co-creation. It was an ultimate act of compassion on both our parts. It was a truce, but yet it most definitely wasn't touchy-feely in any way, shape or form, you know? And it's not quite what we're talking about, but I was just trying to figure out a way where I could just bring us down a little peg from too much overthinking.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that because, you know, compassion is non-judgment, and you couldn't have had that opportunity, that dialogue with them if you would have gone into judgment
Or fear.
Yeah. Exactly. So this is really something. When we talk about compassion, we can't do fear and we can't do judgment in that moment of time. You know, we have to step into true awareness, have to let go of anti-consciousness, have to let go of unconsciousness. Absolutely. This is the way to do it. Absolutely. There are very much, and thanks both of you for pointing that out, the different levels of compassion. Of course there are. I mean, the experience, you know, when you are with somebody who's dying, you also don't go into that space where you fall to pieces.
No.
No.
Anybody.
No, you sit there and you are the space. You know, you might have stuff coming up, but that's your own shit that you need to deal with and look at. So if you really want to deal with somebody, you know, go into this, not pastoral, whatever that's called, you know, working with people that are moving on. I think it's one of the most rewarding things you can do, because you're bringing in that space through your understanding what the death process is. You know, it's such a valuable thing to have in this process, especially with so many people have personal losses at the moment, you know, and they're falling apart because they're not understand, or I like the word understanding. So understanding, you know, what's actually going on and the gift of it all. And of course, we need to acknowledge, you know, the pain and the suffering that comes with it. But then again, we need to even look when we talk about the level of compassion. We also need to look at pain and suffering. Pain and suffering is a judgment, right? But then again, you know, this is what humanness is all about. We give labels so that we can dissociate and associate with them and learn through them, you know. So there's nothing wrong with labels as long as we don't get completely attached to them and allow them to take over our life. Sometimes it's a good way of dissociation. Especially, you know, when we talk about good or bad, you know, it all becomes one. Yes, but sometimes we need to know, is this good or bad? And, you know, how do we co-create with that?
Some people on their deathbed are the most bravest you've ever seen them, aren't they? Because it's like, well, that's the ultimate, isn't it? There's really nothing else that can go wrong now, you know, and the soul can just come out.
And you know what? If people are not prepared, huge fear can come out. people who are fighting, they're fighting. And all you can do is sit there and be the space. You see, this is another thing with compassion, is knowing what a kindness is. Just because we know what's going on in their heads, in their bodies, in their minds, you know, which might be a projection anyway at some stage, you know, so don't always believe what you think, you know, doesn't mean that they're willing to hear that. I've had situations where I knew there was other stuff that could be done, but a person wasn't ready for it. And then their ego, you need to take the ego. It's no longer a tool there then. It becomes that, oh, I'm going to tell you, and you could do this and that. No, use the knowingness that you have. Use your awareness for what can you offer. Just be the space and allow them to be whatever they need to be. That is the biggest gift in a dying process, in a death process. But of course, it's one of the biggest gifts in any bloody process, because now with your child, your husband, your wife, or whatever, you know.
I wouldn't be able to get anywhere near my level of awareness if I didn't practice kindness. It was integral in my awakening. One of the hardest lessons as well, believe it or not. Yeah,
because it's a precursor for compassion. If you can't do kindness, then you can't do compassion, right? If you can't do non-judgment, you can't do compassion. You can't do even bloody kindness.
If you're in competition, the slightest amount of competition, you're not in genuine kindness. You are stroking your own ego.
Stroking your own ego, exactly. But really honoring, and it's such an honor to witness a process. Even if it's crap, the process, and you know this person is fighting, still a fucking honor. And you're still making a difference by sitting there. If you start arguing with that person, oh yeah, then you're fucking it up. You can't do that, especially at that stage. There's no point to argue with a person that is on the way out. No point to argue.
You know, Martina, my father-in-law's passing right now. He has terminal cancer, and it's been a real trigger for some recent experiences.
Yeah.
He was a chronic alcoholic his whole life. Not the kind of person that particularly likes life, you know? And when I looked into it, my God, his passing creates such a healing in that lineage, you know? It's just like, you know, anyone else from the outside, you could look in and say, whoa, what a horrible life. And then what a horrible death. But it actually, for me, the whole thing is an act of compassion.
Yeah.
You know, he gets to bugger off somewhere else now, go and have his healing, you know? And it's just perspective, isn't it?
It's a straightforward facilitation. Leading by example, whichever way you go, you're facilitating the shit out of the people that are left behind, you know? And if you have prepared yourself to a certain level and actually can see this whole thing as a process that can be joyful in the weirdest sort of way, at least peaceful, then you will have a completely different. But anyway, let's not go into that yet. We talk about this another time. But yeah, I mean, it's part of the compassion, right? It's part of that. So let's talk about more. We've already started talking because we go all over the place, of course, but as usual, precondition, requirements of being a compassionate person.
Self-mastery straight away. There's no other one that you can't skip that journey at all, because it's the constant process of taking away the power from the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. I know we hear these words all the time, but to say the words is very different to actually experiencing the process. As those programs start to come away, as the arguments for your own limitations or the arguments for your own interactions begin to change and fall away, what is in its place is pure authenticity. And for me, I was surprised how much compassion was there.
Yes.
It surprised me, you know,
yeah.
Compassion, not just in an airy-fairy light worker kind of way, but genuinely compassion for everybody on their journey, doing what they're supposed to be doing in synergy with the creator.
I love what you said, again, this airy-fairy thing, because compassion is there's nothing airy-fairy about compassion.
It can be pleasant and it can be beautiful and it can be expressed in those feminine ways, but it's not the only flavor of ice cream in the shop.
And because it's not powerless, it's powerful. It's very powerful. The beauty is all there. It can be beautiful, but it can be powerful. It can be also, I mean, when you sit with somebody who is dying and you work, you cultivate this compassion, it's tough. It's still tough to sit there and do it, to stay in that non-judgment. You really have to bring out the tools. You really have to work it, you know, and to really, really step into that self-healing and self-mastery. That is number one. I would fully agree. I would fully agree. What else? We've already talked.
Remembering that you are human being. It doesn't matter what is your awakening, what is the level of your understanding of all these experiences. Still remember that you are human being, and you will at some point at that level, what you see around you, other people still just remembering, stepping into their power. Remember that you are still human being with all your mastery, with all everything. This is what you choose to experience today. You're human being.
Absolutely.
It's the skin suit that's the human being. The soul can come in various different shapes and forms and sizes, you see. The skin suit, through the self-mastery, you learn how the skin suit, the seen world, reacts with the unseen world. And the idea of being a human, a God man, is that this DNA skin suit gives us access to all different kinds of micro levels of awareness and creation within the unseen and seen. So it's not just the base of being a human being as an animal, it's so much more.
Yes. And also, we mustn't just glorify the soul itself. Remember, you know, we have lots of different path charts and avatars and I ams out there. It was all part of the soul level that are still in competition and hierarchy with us. You know?
And you as a micro being, with full use of the DNA technology, can become the master avatar of macro beings.
Absolutely. So, and I like what Matty said early on, because compassion doesn't stop in this reality. It goes well beyond into all the other dimensional realities, you know, universes, galaxies, and all of that, you know, especially as you said, with your Dracos, with all the different species and everything. It's all part of that. So we're not going to get around this. If we don't become masters of compassion in this reality here, how are we going to actually get out there as being those humans of the fifth world of peace, right? When we go on to the macro level, as you said, we could, well, this is the school, right? So it's just another level, you know.
If you don't have compassion and all of a sudden your, you know, in your technology turns on, then you can do what the Neanderthals did and just start uncreating worlds left, right, and center. You know, you can't have one without the other. They have to come together. The whole process comes together as a syncopation of masterful creation, which is synergy with all that is, was, and ever will be.
I like that you just mentioned the uncreate is one of my things here as well. Again, precondition for compassion is the capacity of being the creator that you are, and at the same time being the uncreator that you are. So uncreating all the limiting factors, uncreating all the things that don't allow you to be expansive, all the things that keep you small in the box, like we said early on. You know, it's part of that.
And you can think bigger. You can think bigger. You know, you can think that process, that uncreational process within yourself. You can take that to a macro scale. It will happen on its own. It's not the kind of thing that you just all of a sudden wake up one day and decide to do. You know what I mean? But that's the suit that we're in. And when this technology turns on, it's infinite.
And to add to that, what you said, Martina, about uncreate what we don't see as a human values, as experience for human, what it is in essence. This is, in my understanding, highest level of compassion, when we can see with that not judgmental side, not judgmental vision, everything that is not of human value around us and uncreated. Make our intention that we don't agree with that anymore. We're done with that.
There's a lot of control behind that, though. That's the one thing that is a bit sticky in these subjects, you see. That's the difference between synchronicity and synergy, is that one is kind of more in flow. One is more expression, and the other one is more of an action. Does that make sense?
It is makes sense, but I'm not talking about level when you still have judgment. I'm talking about level when you mastered yourself to the point when you don't have judgment. You don't want that kind of experience because you judge it. You don't want that kind of experience because it is not human value of human life, human experience.
Okay, so
that is control.
There's something that froze me. What froze me is the human value, because that's the judgment itself.
Yes, that's the control.
If we take out the human value and just work on the level of what is, whatever we're stepping into, without saying that I'm now human, I'm not, I'm ascended, I'm this and that, then we're taking out this whole thing. You know what I mean?
Point, yeah, I see what you mean. And I agree with you completely. But my point was with remembering that this universe, this bubble was created as experience of heart. This value I put into corner. This what I say. If I see something that is not heart value, this I don't want in this universe, because we stepped into this bubble to have heart experience in the first way.
You see, I hear what you're saying. I'm just confused on this one, because I don't see that we created this galactic ascension machine. It's not just about the heart. This is about karmic resolution. It's about everything. It's about being the asshole and the goodie, the angel. It's about everything.
Source disconnection, source reconnection. That is the path you see on the macro scale. Source disconnection, source reconnection. So whichever way anybody else around you is experiencing source disconnection, you know, it's their journey.
Agreed 100%. And as we know already, another place already created for that consciousness that not going to have this heart-based experience. It's another place already created. So we just, with our intention, with our love, with our compassion, send them to their bubble of experience where they can continue what they want to continue. But we are cleaning house here as we started, remembering that this house, this universe was started to have heart-centered experience. Yes, we're not killing them. No. It's a consciousness. It's the same experience of consciousness, but with different rules. We just having understanding and remembering. It is another bubble already created for that consciousness with rules to have their experience by those rules.
Yeah.
There are no rules in a free world universe.
Yeah.
Of course. But like I said, this our experience was started based in love, and we got entanglement with another consciousness desire to experience not in love, in oppositions, for example, in domination. This is what I'm saying. My point. It's personally how I see my universe.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, look, love is the fabric of existence, and compassion is part of that. That's we know that. Yes. The galactic ascension machine was created to resolve the paradox, the timeline paradox, and all the karma. And as we do that, and we can talk about everyone being in our single own bubble of reality, because it is an individual awakening. As we're all doing that, and we're letting go of the karma, and we're letting go of the separations and of the polarity and the contrast and all of that, we are getting back to where we need to be: pure consciousness, pure awareness. Resolution. But then again, we also need to actually acknowledge that even the ones without the body, they're not in a pure state of bliss. There are also assholes out there. They have less levels of emotional hang-ups and judgment, but it's still there to a certain extent. So let's get back to compassion. Let's go back to compassion now in terms of the mere understanding of that exactly. It's very good that we're discussing that, because the mere understanding or understanding is that we are here for karmic resolution is part of allowing us, is a precondition to become compassionate. If you don't understand why you're here for karmic resolution, then compassion makes no fucking sense, right? And also we need to realize that karma as a universal law is, we are here to stop karma as a universal law. Like the Buddhists say, through compassion, through connection to our soul essence, we become enlightened. We remember who we truly are, godlike fractals of the prime creator. Then the other thing, we mentioned it already, another precondition for compassion is obviously acknowledging the ego for what it is, right? Use it as a manifestation tool with joy and fun and all of that, but don't get hung up on it. Don't allow the ego to dictate your journey, and the understanding, just the understanding, and that leads us back to the death experience, just the understanding of the long-term agenda of any human being here, and acknowledging the impermanence of this reality, the impermanence of that life that we're leading here. Just the fact, if we really acknowledge the impermanence, and that allows a tremendous joy and dynamic in the moment to emanate, right? Because, you know, we're looking at impermanence, it's like, oh, I'm going to die anyway, and la, la, la. No, can we look at the impermanence of life as, wow, this means celebration on a daily basis, right? Now, this is where compassion, again, that's a factor of that compassion. That's a precondition.
Martina, maybe you should say the impermanence of the DNA skin suit technology.
Say again, darling.
Because
The impermanence of?
the DNA skin suit technology, because we leave the DNA skin suit technology and we move on to the next phase of existence. We are still there, our soul still exists, but the body we leave behind. It goes back to the earth because it belongs to the earth.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can look at it from that perspective. And then, of course, we also need to add, if, you know, there's a reason why we reincarnate in the same lineage all the time, because yes, we say the body goes and everything, but still the soul codes and everything that are in the lineage are still part of the body that we're choosing in the next time, in the next round, you know?
Yeah, it remains in the light body.
Oh.
We take the light body with us, and then we stay in the lineage, our soul family or whatever. And then we choose whether we want to come back and have a brand new body, a brand new DNA skin suit technology, and then that gets imprinted with our lineage memories, you know, because it's birthed in the mother's womb. And so we come back in with a new body, if we so choose. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, yes. So,
but what I was thinking as you guys were talking before is that we have to the free will. We have to talk about free will with the compassion, because in order to be when you become a self-illuminated master, free will, or 100% free will, is involved here. And we are in this existence now where we seem to find ourselves most of the time with only two choices: one choice or zero choice. And we have to use our free will in order to take back our power. This is the way I feel, by using our free will, because if we don't use our free will, we'll get no place. And our free will allows us to become the self-illuminated master. And everything else will just, that will become our protection, and everything just falls away and has no horrible effect upon our existence here. That will be our protection, our free will.
So let me ask you, when we're talking about compassion today, so how does compassion, compassion facilitate free will, or how does free will facilitate compassion? What's the connection there?
How does it, the connection between the two?
Mm-hmm.
So, as I said, in our experience, we find ourselves a lot of the times with zero choice, because the system has brought us to a position where we find ourselves there. We have no choice most of the times, or one single choice, and that's not a choice. So Andrew had said that we have to use our free will in order to get back to the self-illuminated master status that we should be. So compassion, when we get to being the self-illuminated master, the compassion just comes naturally to do the right thing. Yes? Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I just asked what
It's a natural byproduct of being
because anything else would be
self-illuminated.
control, you know. And so if you don't have the need to control anything anymore, you're experiencing life as it is. Therefore, compassion is the natural state of emanation. Not always,
Yes.
not always, but it becomes a natural state of emanation. So how does free will relate to self-mastery?
They go hand in hand, don't they?
In which way? How do you use free will for self-mastery?
Well, free will, when you use your free will, for example, we do revocations. We are mastering our free will.
Choice, you've already said it. You know, you're hitting the nail on the head. It all comes down to choice. Yeah. What are you going to choose in the moment? And are you going to allow a system or anybody else to influence how many choices you have in any given moment?
Yeah.
I see.
It really is that simple.
We're creating more choices for ourselves by doing that. We're adding choices.
Self-mastery, by choosing to do the meditations, choosing to eat right, choosing to clean the gut, choosing day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, to continue on the journey and not allow ourselves to be limited by the choices put upon us by the narrative.
Yes, because the way we're seeing it right now in the whole world, we're seeing like almost only one choice or two choices. And that's not a choice. In some situations, there is zero choice.
We have infinite choices in an infinite universe with free will.
Exactly. So why are we limited to zero or choice or one choice? Doesn't make sense.
No.
And this is what we need to understand. Everybody needs to understand this, is that we have choices. And this is how we take back our choices, through free will.
Through action.
Yeah. And we don't have to go out in the streets and say, hey, yeah, we got free will. We're taking it back. We're doing it within ourselves. Silently, quietly, for compassion for our own self and our DNA lineage, our soul family.
Until such a time as that explodes into this huge plethora of creation that the macro worlds can't help but notice.
Yeah, well, they become irrelevant to our greater growth.
We're not limited just to this narrative and this reality or this planet.
Right. And then the galactic ascension machine becomes null and void. When we get to that
already done. It's already done.
Well, it's in the process.
We already finished with ascension machine. We already finished. And let us remember that free will, it was our agreement, basic agreement on level of universe. When we stepped into this 100% free will experience, we all agreed it's our nature today, 100% free will. If you don't have 100% free will, you're not yourself yet.
Okay, so
I also, one second. I also agree with you that it's already done, Irina, but we are in the process of getting there. We have to work out day by day, step by step in order to get, because remember Andrew said that it's already done. We're just working into the future.
It's not done.
We are in the middle. The future and the past is meeting us right where we're at.
Agreed completely. It is our personal journey today. Agreed for everyone. That's why it is everyone with our timing will reach that already done on universal level.
It's us unfolding day by day, step by step to get there. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
Matthew,
yes.
what did you wanted to say? You were kind of disagreeing.
No, it's okay. I have my own personal.
Yeah, share it then.
No.
What's your thought?
There's some things I can't say, because of my journey. Otherwise, I step on my journey, man. And I'm not going to do that. But it's not over yet. It's not a done deal. I mean, it is. We have reached that point where it's assured, but we still have to go through the moments of now, because it's the linear time is where the resolution is. Linear time mixed with our DNA technology is the resolution of karma with the use of free will. Okay, but you can say those words as much as you want. You've got to not understand them. You have to emanate that kind of wisdom. Yeah, and that comes through.
I agree with you.
Experience.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And it is everyone's personal journey that all together we come to that resolution. But it must be personal journey, and we're all different. Someone already live in that peace and free will, 100% free will for their journey.
And when you do experience that past, present, and future simultaneously, it's almost like an aha moment. It's almost like, oh, well, of course. But you can't just step outside of the linearity that easily. It becomes uncomfortable. Everything's ground in the linearity, even like the ego death and things like that. That has to be a linear process. You can't just skip to the end.
In my experience, in my understanding, we're already practicing that multidimensionality today, being that universal being and at the same time human being in linear experience. It's kind of like, in my understanding, beginning of that multidimensionality everywhere. So it's like bigger picture and our human linear experience connecting together into two experiences at once.
Which is God getting to know itself and deciding its new clothes. So that's something I can talk about, is the expression, the idea of that the human body is going to be inhibited by what we call God, even though it already is, but it will become its actual expression, if that makes sense. I haven't got the right words to explain this part of it.
Yeah, what you're trying to say is man realized.
Man is God, and the DNA technology within the skin suit. So let's say that you have founder being technology within you. Well, then you can become a celestial architect or something to that name. So you can physically change planets, physically move things around, actually make a difference on a macro scale. You can do that in your technology. It's the DNA skin suit. And linear time is the functionality that's used to resolve the karma. And then God gets to have a new expression.
Yeah.
Okay, let me now pull this all in, what you guys just said, yeah? There is no free will if there wouldn't be infinite possibilities that are still available. It's done or not done, it doesn't matter, yeah? There's still infinite possibilities. Energy is not being destroyed. Energy cannot be destroyed. Whatever we have already achieved can still be fucked up, because we have 100% free will, right? Yep. Now, there are beings on this planet who have quite a bit of prime creator technology and percentages of prime creator within them. That doesn't necessarily mean they are just going through the same process as we are doing, who are not. We all have prime creator percentages in ourselves. We all have, because we're all fractures of that, some more or less. And it doesn't really matter how much you've got in there or not, you still have to go through exactly the same process of self-healing and self-mastery. Now, let's go back to compassion, because what I'm really interested now is, how can we use the tool of compassion? Because we're working on compassion. This is our new passion, right? How can we use compassion to understand the free will better? How can we use compassion as a tool? And I would like to now also read what Caitlin said, because she turned it all around as well. Compassion is learning to balance love and wisdom. When we are truly in a compassionate state, we also learn the importance of honoring our free will as well as another free will. Yeah. So look, I want you to look at compassion as a tool. Just like we've used all the emotions as a guidance system. What can we learn through being triggered? Now, what can we learn about free will? How can we actually choose free will, understand free will, and actually choose the infinite possibilities that are out there by using the tool of compassion? Free will is the essence of choice. Yes, it's all about choice. And we could say it's the foundation for the self-mastery. I would say choice is almost the result of self-mastery, because choice is not something that is being taught at school, but having infinite choice, infinite possibilities available, no matter which level we are at, you know, we can still fuck this up, all of us. Yeah. So we have to keep on choosing. We have to keep on understanding that we have free will. We have to use compassion, because so many of us got tired of, you know, what's the other thing? We dealt with blame, shame, and guilt. We dealt with anger and all of that. So what's next? Let's work with compassion to show us the next level of where we can, you know, embrace, embody that energy.
So I was thinking, when you presented the word compassion, the first thing that came to my thought was separate the two words, come and passion. And I was thinking, well, here comes our passion for free will, our passion for choice, our passion for self-mastery. So we take the passion into everything that is right and good for us.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said.
Yeah.
So it's the new passion on the dharmic path. Compassion. Yes. Beautifully said.
Here comes the passion.
Here comes the passion.
For what?
And with that, unconditional love, because that's another thing that we haven't really understood, because we don't even know what love is yet. That's another thing we're looking at. But what is now unconditional love? That is very similar to compassion, I would say. So that's something we need to work on to really expand our, you know, magnet, you know, the toroidal field, as we call it, you know, start understanding the capacity that we have through the heart. Being the space. So I was just looking, what are the benefits of compassion? Is, you know, working with unconditional love, understanding the power of the heart, understanding the space that we can be and how space creates. Now this is getting interesting. How does space create, right? How does space, what is space? Again, no judgment, total compassion, unbiased equanimity.
Being on the edge of unknownness.
Being on the edge of unknownness.
So the unknown can be made known.
Yes, being at ease with uncertainty, right? All part of that, being that space, yes.
Being at ease and being at peace.
Being at peace and at ease, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. And then obviously, yeah, spiritual healing and enlightenment, whatever you want to call it, awakening, remembering, that kind of stuff. So, we talked already. I've got a question. How do we unlock compassion? I think we've talked already. Let me just see what I've got. Unbiased point of view. You know, the oneness principle. Compassion is such a great, you know, it's obviously a no-brainer. Yeah, compassion is we need to learn, because, you know, whoever you're compassionate towards, you know, you're actually towards yourself. So if you fall apart when somebody is in pain, well, look in the mirror. What is that? What is the gift here that is facilitating you? Like we said early on, Matty, you know, with people dying in our vicinity, there are such amazing, you know, facilitators.
And the more one practices compassion, so for me, I think, you know, sometimes these things are different for people, aren't they? For me, compassion was, like I say, a state of emanation that came forth at a certain stage in the process, where it wasn't like, it's not, you don't have to try for it. Does that make sense? It's just kind of when these self-defeating programs and inner demons fall away, when you remove these shards, then compassion is kind of like there waiting for you. It's the best way that I can describe it. That's the way it was for me. it wasn't something that came naturally to me before that. But compassion, like you said about with the laws of the universe, we use compassion to bring the laws of the universe back around in our favor. And we're just being compassionate. We're not doing it for anything. But every time that you make a compassionate action or a healing, it comes back to you twofold, you know? And then eventually they snowball, and it just becomes a state of emanation.
Yeah. And I'd like to add to that, I'd really, the sense that I'm getting from discussing compassion is, it is a tool. It is a tool, and we need to start using it more. We need to start using it more, because I think it is really an opener for unconditional love, part of that, looking at that. And it is really the new passion. It is the new passion. We've
got to separate it, haven't we, Martina, from the old passion, which is empathy. You know, where everybody thinks, oh, we've got to feel everybody's emotions, and all that kind of stuff. You know, that I bet there are many people, and myself included, in years gone by, I must admit that couldn't separate empathy from compassion.
Yeah,
because they were one. If I can't feel every little bloody thing that's going on in you, then I'm not actually really feeling compassion for you, which is not true.
No, not at all. You're fucking judging the person.
Exactly.
That's what we're doing. No. And absolutely. Thanks for saying that again. We said it in the very beginning. What is compassion not? It's not, judging others. It's not taking self-pity. It's not that old empathetic martyrdom, or that misidentification of, oh, I'm such a psychic because I can feel what, yes, and that kind of stuff. No, that's got fuck all to do with compassion. Yeah. Compassion is a very, very unique energy. It's an energy that has been out there. It's very old, but I think for the level that we're working on, it's a new, we need to look at it more. We need to really, I personally cannot say that I totally embody compassion.
No, me neither.
No. And as long as I can't say that, I need to work on it, because that's like, okay, let's look at it. What else is there that I haven't actually considered yet, and I think we mentioned a lot of stuff, the tools, what we can do, in order to be compassionate and all of that. So what I do want to do is I want to actually give, we can meditate on compassion. You see, this is the next level. It's very much like beyond the ego. It's very much like beyond, and I wouldn't say logic, but it's a different level of exploration.
It's beyond cognition. Yes.
Yeah, it's a visual process. It's more like a vision, it's more like a imaginary process. It's more like where we sit back and allow ourselves to visualize things, a meditative approach. When you go into a meditation and you really allow yourself to calm down those inner voices, and where you get into that space, and then you step into that, okay, so let me see what compassion actually feels like. When I do this, I do this with Kundalini breathing. And again, I do my Kundalini, it's the miracle mantra, which is Waheguru, Guru Ramdas or something. I do this for 30 minutes. And then I get to that stage where I finally calm down. Yeah. Where it's like, okay, not 1,000 things flying. And then you do this miracle, just compassionate exercise. And it's quite interesting. You can use it for your environment, what's going on in the environment, and you just allow everything to come through. You bring it into the heart, you transmute everything, and then you send out compassionate thoughts or whatever you want to send out. You can do it with a loved one. You can do it with your own shit, breathe it in, use the heart to transform everything. So it becomes that level we have to work on, I think, with compassion. So why don't we just do a little exercise like that? Would you like to do that before we finish off?
Sure.
So just mute yourselves here, and you can let all the stuff going, all the rest, and I haven't really prepared a proper one, but just a little bit of stuff here. So just keep your feet on the ground maybe, and just, relax your shoulders down towards the sitting bones. And just get back focusing on the breath here. Just take a deep breath. We're breathing through the nose. You might, focus on the third eye, maybe between the eyebrows, bridge of the nose. Just breathing in. Just a couple of breaths now. This has been such a whoa discussion here. So many ideas flying around. So let's just get into the body here now. Breathing in, breathing out. And just really, take the length of the breath from the tailbone all the way up into the crown, and then allow it to come back down again. Long, deep. Make the inhalation and the exhalation maybe at the same length. And then just drop all those barriers. Those barriers we talked about, the false protection barriers. And just acknowledge your value as a multidimensional being. Acknowledge the value and that potency that you truly are. Multidimensional, photonic, being of light, connecting, co-creating with your non-localist soul and essence. Just step into that, emanate that energy for yourself. And that comes with, accepting the responsibility. So accept that responsibility as the human creator in the fifth world of peace. And all you do is you just breathe that energy in and up along the spine, along the vagus nerve. And then the vagus nerve brings it into the organs, into the cells of the body, just by using the breath as your guidance. And then maybe forgive and reconcile any stuck energies caused by your actions or non-actions. And start expanding yourself out. We're talking about that out of the box. Start expanding yourself out beyond your physical body. And fill your beingness, fill the whole room with your beingness. Just call it beingness now. And then expand that. It's a 99%, 99%, which we call there's nothing space in the atoms. Expand that out beyond your house, beyond your city, beyond your country. Expand yourself out. It may be easy or not. Just see what it's like. Go as far as you allow yourself to go today. Every day is different. Expand yourself out, the entire world, all the way up to the central sun, all the way down, molten core. And just breathe in that space. So the breath keeps you in the body. We're not leaving the body here, but we're just playing with that expanded space. And that is an exercise itself that can cultivate compassion when you get in a space where you feel too much contraction. Expand yourself out. That can happen in a moment. Emanate that energy. And then step into that master of the self, the healer that you truly be, even if you might not acknowledge it. And then just allow that natural shield of greatness created through that acknowledgement of your value and your beingness. Allow that to bring clarity of your purpose, your mission. Allow that soul essence, that space to penetrate your physical cells. Allow your heart to illuminate. Your dynamic generosity to shine brightly. And focus on your heart. Imagine a bright white light in the heart. And now in that state of fortified valued, potency. Just breathe in the moods in the atmosphere. Allow yourself to breathe them in. Breathe them into that white light, into that heart. Breathe in the confusion that's going on in this world. Then allow that heart, that bright white light in the heart, to transform, to transmute, to purify that energy without a trace. There's no trace left. You've got that capacity. Your body has that capacity. That is the technology. That is the catalyst that you are. And then take, with the out breath, take that energy, that purified energy, and breathe it out and send healing, reconciliation, clarity, joy to anyone who wants to receive it without projection, without expectation. So with every inhalation, you draw in the pain, the suffering of the people, somebody you know, somebody you don't know. You transform it. There's no trace left. As you're the self-illuminated master in this body. And then send out with the out breath. Send out that transformed energy. Breathing in the trauma, breathing in the drama, breathing in the pain, the suffering. Breathing out unconditional love, compassion, unbiased equanimity. Just for a couple of minutes, just keep breathing. Giving permission to your DNA technology to transform, transmute, purify without a trace. And just start acknowledging what's going on whilst you're doing that. What are the sensations in the body? Is there warmth? Is there heat? Is there cold? Are there any thoughts coming up? You can't do this. You shouldn't do this. You're not prepared for it. Or is it just blissfully being in service? By being the best you can be. By activating your energy, your DNA technology. Or maybe tears, there may not. And just take another deep breath in. Exhale all the way down. Come back into the room that you're in. Not that you ever left, just become aware of it. Take your hands and just do some cat scratches. Just scratch your hands there, yeah. Just really feeling back, you know. Good. And it's just a very short idea of how we can cultivate that compassion. It's a visualization. But how does it feel? How did you perceive that? Is that something that we need to practice a bit? There have been days where I was in tears. Tears of joy, tears of compassion, I suppose.
Well, I felt your heart open up halfway through that, Martina. That's what I felt.
Yeah. And what do? We do what we are been told. We do exactly the things that we've told not to do, taking other people's pains and suffering. But why can we do that? Because we're not doing it from a place of we are the saviors. We're doing it from a knowingness of who we actually truly are.
Alchemist.
We're doing it, yeah, from the knowingness that we are alchemists. We are actually activating the technology by doing that. So you're doing it for yourself. Don't even think of you doing it for somebody else. Best way of doing it, do this exercise. Do it because you know that you are working with your Kundalini energy. You're activating all the different chakras and everything. And you sending out that stuff is just a nice byproduct, right? It's just the foam on the coffee that you're giving off. But your cup is full. You're not giving your soul essence. You're just you're acknowledging the strength and potency of your heart, of everything. Good? Something to practice? Okay, my lovelies. I think it's a good note to finish off. So that was, talking a little bit about compassion.
I want to say something, Martina. It's not the only choice to practice compassion, so that others can, if they come up with another way of activating that compassion, that's it felt like it's hidden deep inside us. It's a natural state of being. So if you come up with a different way of finding that to bring it forth, then it's proving to us again that we don't have just one choice. We have infinite choices how to bring forth and emanate this compassion. Yes?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And what we're going to do is once you or whatever forms and tools you have to cultivate your compassion, share them with us. Share them with us, either in the Earth Nouveau Hub or in our next conversation. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, Lana.
Yeah, we have infinite choices. And this is what we have to start practicing, the infinite choices that we never recognized before that was there for us by using our free will.
Exactly.
Without
expectation. Practice.
Without any expectation of the outcome, just purely because you fucking love it. That's why.
Exactly. Makes you feel good, but not from a place of neediness to feel good. No, just like, okay, what do we do? Have a bath or, eat some good food. Meditation. Practice compassion. And as Lana says, many other ways of doing it. So
do it with a smile on your face because it's a natural thing.
Because you do feel better afterwards. If you do this, I mean, we cut it short, obviously, but if you do this like for 10, 15 minutes, even if nothing happens, that's fine. That's fine. Just keep on breathing, even if you say in whatever and out, just it's really just an acknowledgement of who we are,
And the breath is fun. Sorry, Martina. The breath is fundamental to understanding how the technology works anyway. And that, has its own unseen factors and unseen aspects that are extremely potent and powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to scooch off. I'm going to have to go, man. I've left the kids
Yeah.
down there for ages.
We all go. So yes, thank you very much, guys, as every week. Thanks for being here. Good to see you, Matty, again, and
Yeah, it's
everyone
lovely
else.
to see you guys again. It's been a long time, man.
Yeah, that's nice. Nice you popped in. Fantastic. And new ones who came in, thanks very much for everyone. And we see each other next week.
Bye, everyone.
Thank
Love
you.
you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.